Alright guys, check this out. I have switched from manjaro-kde to OpenSuse Tumbleweed with KDE. And the reason I did it when I did it is because I broke my Manjaro. Totally on me, not the OS. Yeah, user error. We'll leave it at that. But that gave me the opportunity to try Tumbleweed again. And I almost fully switched to it about 3 years ago. And the only reason I didn't is because once I got it installed and running, VirtualBox would not host a 64-bit client. Don't know why. I don't need it now because I don't use VirtualBox. I use VirtManager and Qemu. So that stipulation is no longer a stipulation. I've got everything set up. Didn't take long. And it's running absolutely wonderful. Something about one of the things I can brag about with Tumbleweed is versus Manjaro. Tumbleweed has Pipewire installed and running, whereas Manjaro does not. You still have to manually install Pipewire in Manjaro. Wayland is also installed, is not set on by default in Tumbleweed, but it is installed. Manjaro, Wayland, at least on KDE, Wayland is still not installed. You have to install it. In Tumbleweed, once you get installed, get logged in, just log out, select your Wayland session, log back in. You're in Wayland with Pipewire. It's already there. So, loving that. Don't have to do that mess to get that part set up. And another reason to go with Tumbleweed is, it's known in the Linux world as being one of the absolute most stable rolling releases that you can possibly get. So if that's the case, why don't more people use it? Personally, I think it's the installer. I'm going to run through the installer with you real quick to show you what I set and how I set it and why I set it that way on the OpenSuse installer, which I'm not a big fan of, but it's what we have. Yeah, anyway, right here, KDE Plasma 527.2 and kernel 6.2.2-1 on Wayland. So everything is, as far as I can tell, everything's set up the way I had it. This video is kind of a test video to make sure that my recording and my Kdenlive sessions are where I need them to be similar to what I've been doing. So that's that. And as you can see, we have the installer running here. And in editing, I'm going to actually make a lot of this go faster. OpenSuse's installers kind of a little bit on the slower side, I guess. Some of the difference is a lot of the Linux distributions that you run nowadays, you boot into a live session and the installer is fairly quick, but you're booting into the live session, which makes the installer quicker because everything's loaded at that point. So we're going to run through this. There is an agreement to agree to. It is what it is. On the online repositories, every time I said yes here, my installation failed about halfway through. My suggestion is online repositories activate. No. Anything that you want to update, you can update your system after you get it installed and after it has successfully installed. Of course, I run KDE Plasma. I don't have dual boot, so I'm just going to let Tumbleweed have its way, which is exactly what I did on the hard drive because I was not dual booting. So let Tumbleweed have its way. If you do a weak password, it says, really use this password? Yes, really. And then the other thing that you really need to be aware about is this firewall will be enabled. If you have network printers, OpenSuse is the OpenSuse philosophy of their operating system is that it is enterprise ready. So they are very aggressive on their firewall. If you have network printers in your house, you will not find your network printers with the default settings of OpenSuse firewall. If you're behind a router, your router acts like a firewall. So in theory, at least, you don't need a firewall in your operating system if you're behind a router. So on this, I disabled this on my actual install. And I will also show you that with my operating system's firewall disabled, the shields up analysis is 100% passed. Truth stealth analysis passed. That is because I'm behind a hardware firewall with my router. If you feel like you need a firewall on the operating system side, you can go ahead and leave that enabled, and once you've installed it, there are settings you can set within the firewall that will allow you to be able to find your printers on your network. But for me, I disable it. And then that's pretty much all I do. It's really not a terrible installer. It's pretty straightforward and to the point if you're keeping all of the default settings minus that firewall setting. If you actually have to go into your hard drive and configure it that way, it's not as user friendly. So I'm going to hit install and we're going to run through this. All right, so we are now installed, and I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to go back to a full screen view, configure display settings. I'm going to match up to my desktop, which is that one. Hit apply. Everything should move into place. Keep. And we're good. So now I have basically a virtual machine of my actual machine for the most part. And if I go ahead and do a log out, right here, desktop plasma, I have not installed anything. This is by default. Right there's my Wayland session, and I can log back in as Wayland. I'm going to uncheck this so it stops coming up. Go into your system settings button right there. And I do like the side view there. I'm going to type SDDM, login screen, SDDM. If it doesn't keep your Wayland as your default login and you want it to be, go to your SDDM under behavior and then change to Plasma Wayland. You'll have to enter your password again. And now it will log every time I start the computer or restart, or it will now default to my Wayland session. Outstanding. So, another thing to note, we do have the YAST. It's not in favorites. It is actually part of system settings, so that's kind of neat. Right down here at the bottom, you can go to YAST. Oh, that was a lot of buttons. There's YAST. On printers, this is my personal experience. When you go to printers, I don't know if this will work the same way under virtualization, but when I go to add a printer, you can't do this from the KDE settings. YAST takes over your printer privileges. So you have to do this in YAST. So when I clicked add, it doesn't show up anything. So I'm going to click detect more. I have to hit the detect more. And what I think is going on is, okay, it's not going to work in virtualization, but that's fine. It works on the real thing. My understanding is when you hit add and it initially looks for something, I think it's looking for printers that are physically connected to your computer. When you detect more, then you're actually checking the network to see if you can find anything. And I'll hit detect more one more time just to give it the benefit of the doubt. It's not going to find my printers in virtualization. That's fine. I told you about it. There you go. Other than that, using OpenSuse compared to Manjaro, one of the things that I really like about Manjaro is PAMAC. You can update your system simply by typing PAMAC update, and it will fully update your system. Tumbleweed is not much different, except their package manager is Zipper. So as long as you understand that it's Zipper, you can just about do the same thing. You do add sudo to the line, and then you type Zipper, and then you type distribution update, or for short, DUP. DUP is short for distribution update. Hit enter, you put in your password, and you're going to be updated if there's anything to update. Apparently there's nothing to update. And So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into Yast. And right here where it says software repositories, they're kind of like Debian and Fedora. They don't want to ship non-free by default. So anything non-free, you have to add it yourself. And it's as simple as community repositories. Hit next. And then there they are. You just click the ones you need. I really don't need that one. You click the ones you need. If you have NVIDIA graphics driver, obviously you'd click that one. You hit OK. And if you have NVIDIA graphics drivers, it will install them. You reboot, and you should be running NVIDIA drivers. I'm going to hit OK to get out. Close that out. I'm going to go back into terminal, and I'm going to go back to do another dub. Now there should be updates. Oh, interesting. And you can do sudo, if you're not sure, you can do sudo zipper refresh. Everything's up to date. Interesting. All right. This VirtualBox is, or Virt Machine Tumbleweed is up to date. That is installing OpenSuse the way I do it. In a nutshell, the way I do it's not necessarily the right way. I'm just showing you how I do it for my needs, my purposes. Anyway, I am now fully on Tumbleweed, including my laptop. And so far I'm loving it. It's working great. I'm fully up to date. It's rock solid stable. I can't say enough good things about it as a rolling release. But that's all for now. Until next time, thanks for watching.